Morning everybody and welcome to another video. And today we're going to be revisiting a band I checked out a few months ago, possibly around about August I think it was, a band called Lord of the Lost. A band that I sort of randomly found one day and turned out that they were quite an enjoyable band and had quite an extensive back catalogue, and I've never heard of them before, but I listened to a track called Lorelei and I thought it was amazing. They were a sort of electronica, industrial, dark, gothic sort of band. I likened them to London After Midnight with a bit of Depeche Mode thrown in there. And I thought they were an incredibly interesting band, and it's come up about time for me to look at another track of theirs, a track called Morgana. As it turns out, the two tracks I'm looking at for Lord of the Lost turned out to be women's names. Whether that's a common theme throughout the album, I'm not sure. But in trying to look up the lyrics for the song, I actually found a bit of information about the song. And it turns out that the entire album, called Thornstar, is actually a concept album based around the myths of Pangean mythology. Pangean? I think that's how it's pronounced. Anyway, and it says here, in Pangean mythology, Morgana stands for Mother Nature and symbolises light, sun, and unconditional love. In an act of altruism, Morgana cut out her own heart, and formed the first human beings from it. According to the legend, every human being received a piece of her heart from then on, granting them the energy to live. This energy is only borrowed and is returned to her upon death, therefore completing Morgana a piece at a time, after a long and fulfilling life. And so, there you go. It's essentially, Morgana is like, excuse me, it says you give back to her heart when you die. That's essentially like you returning to the earth. You're becoming one with the earth when you're dead and buried, etc. So you're making the world whole again in some strange kind of way. So it's quite an interesting little story going on there. So yeah, as is obvious, this track is called Morgana, and we're looking at Lord of the Lost once again, so let's just jump to it. I've been waffling for 3 minutes, so let's just jump to the track. I'm quite interested in this because I really enjoyed Lorelei, so let's go. Morgana, Lord of the Lost. Right, I need to pause that for a moment because this is actually quite a bit different to the Lorelei track, which was I mean, it was a really, really good track, but for the most part, it was those sort of deep, rich vocals that he's been using at the beginning of this track. And every now and then, I think it was like in the first part of like each chorus where he mentioned the name Lorelei, he used a sort of higher register growled / screamed vocal, but it was normally only for just that one word, Lorelei. Whereas here, well, he's using a much higher screamed pitch of vocals for a much more sustained period of time. So it's actually quite surprising and quite different from the track that I've already heard. So that's interesting. And I love the way that sort of pre-chorus bit comes in with the keyboardist taking to some drums as well as the drummer there as well. It's got it almost reminds me of a drum and bass drop. The way that sort of thing happens, and it sounded really good. It's an awesome piece in the music. So I really like this track. This is a very, very good track. Now, lyrical-wise, it basically seems to be talking about the concept that I spoke about at the beginning. It says, "Fate will echo between the worlds, through the shores of the fallen souls, to this land that I serve with pride, visions clear in the fading light, and we walk through the shadows of pain, come and walk with me to the end." And it's when that "to the end" line came in. That was actually shouted in a sort of deeper, almost, well, it was basically shouted. Can't really call it a growled vocal style, but that's when that sort of bass drop sort of came into it. And then it went, "All is condemned," which is where he did those really strong screamed vocals. And it goes, "So walk to the end, free from regret, yet will I ascend to her, will I meet Morgana soon, will I meet Morgana soon." So, just those opening lines, fate will echo between the worlds. So there's the world of the living and the world of, well, I wouldn't say so much the dead, but sort of like the afterlife, if you believe in that sort of thing. It says through the shores of the fallen soul, so essentially, there's a bridge between it, and it's bridged by the people who have recently died. To this land that I served with pride, visions clear in the fading light. So, I served this land so well. It's like I lived a full, good, decent life, and now I return to this land and I give back to Morgana. And I mean, there was the actual chorus piece itself. Will I meet Morgana soon? Which obviously means, am I going to be dying soon? Am I going back to Morgana? Am I giving back my life to her? That piece of my heart that she gave to me, am I giving it back to her? So, yes. I really, really like this piece of music. Very, very good. Let's carry on. Well, there we go. Morgana by Lord of the Lost, and what a fantastic piece of music that was. I love that piece of music. That sort of bass drop moment with the chorus is just fantastic. It really sort of gets you pumped up. I can't explain it, but it's such a good piece of music. And again, the guy's voice, I believe is Chris Harms, is the vocalist. He's got such a deep and rich voice. It's so good. It's actually quite different from the first track that I heard, Lorelei. Although I believe they're both off the same album. But yeah, they are. They're both off Thorn Star. I even said it at the beginning that they were. The Lorelei track had a lot more electronica to it, whereas this one was a lot. There was less of the electronica, and it was more the guitars and the drums. But that's really great. Showing variations through the styles of music that they have. Variations of vocal styles I've mentioned many times is something I really enjoy. I like this band. They are so good. It's just phenomenal, and the fact that the album is actually telling stories from like mythology, because I believe the Lorelei one had to do with Lorelei Rock on the Rhine, where this woman threw herself into the sea because she thought she saw her love there after he betrayed her. She got condemned and stuff like that. So it's good that this song, bloody itch. It's good that these songs have got stories and meaning behind them, because again, that's something I really enjoy. Obviously, it's not a necessity when it comes to music, but it's something I really enjoy, is when there is some deeper meaning or some story behind a song. And it's brilliant. The song carried on. Bodies wilt, but the mind's serene, for a life worthy of her grace. My desire as I depart, give my peace back to her lone heart. So there he's actually specifically illustrating, I desire as I depart, give my peace back to her lone heart. So he's proud with how he's lived, and he wants to give back to this Morgana who gave him life, who let him live such a good life. He enjoyed his life, and he feels it only fair that he give back to her to show his appreciation for what she did for him. So it's nice. And then it goes back into that chorus, to the end, all is condemned, so walk to the end, free from regret, yet will I ascend to her, will I meet Morgana soon, will I meet Morgana soon. I have run through the shadows of hate to be hers again. And then it goes back into the chorus, but it was done slightly differently on the final version, rather than just dropping straight into it with the sort of big bombastic, boom. There was almost a sort of very short drum roll to come into it. Then it did the same chorus again, to the end, all is condemned, so walk to the end, free from regret, so walk to the end, and then it repeated, will I meet Morgana soon, over and over again until the end of the track. And it was just such a great piece of music. I absolutely love that piece of music. I'm gonna end up listening to that a few more times when I finish this video, because it's just it's such a great piece of music. Very very surprising. With that sort of almost bass drop like entrance into the chorus, and the extreme nature of the variation in vocals. I mean, like I said, in Lorelei, he did have a sort of screamed vocal style in that, but it wasn't anywhere near that one. That one was like proper high pitch scream, harsh vocals, whereas the one in Lorelei, it was a sort of mix between a shout and a scream, and wasn't really as high pitched in register as that one was. So it's very interesting variations throughout that song, and he even had a sort of lower vocal style. You know, he had his basic, vocal style. Then there was a more sort of aggressive vocal style, and then of course there was that high pitched one as well. So there was plenty of variation in there, and I really very much enjoyed it. And I like the meaning behind the song, sort of like talking about approaching death and looking forward to giving back to the earth which gave him such life. So I like that. I like that. It's very good. I'm curious as well to check out another track because today I had a toss up between the track Voodoo Doll or Morgana, and I ended up going out with Morgana. So, I'm going to be checking out Voodoo Doll sometime in the future. See what that one's like. But yeah, I'm going to have to see if I can get my hands on some of their albums because I need to check out more of their material. But can't really think of much else to say about it, so I'm going to leave it as that. As it is for the time being. Now, if anybody would like to suggest a track for me to react to, then please do so by all means. You can drop a comment in the comment section below, or message me on my Facebook or my Instagram, or you could even message me through my Patreon, where you could also help to support this channel, help me create future content, which would be immensely helpful to me, because obviously with the style of videos I do, I can't actually monetize any of my videos, so all profit generated from these videos goes directly to the band. For the entirety of the video, I don't even get the smallest percentage, which is kind of annoying considering, the music is only a small part of the video. My reaction and everything else, I don't see anything for that. So, it'd be very helpful to me. Do know, though, if you do make a suggestion, it might take me a while to get around to it. Since I get suggested so many tracks every single day, that, my list grows faster than I can record the videos. But I do write down every suggestion I get, so it will get done eventually. But it's going to take me a while to get around to it. But it will get done eventually. Also, Metalhead Reacts is a proud supporter of the Sophie Lancaster Foundation, a British-based charity whose main goal is to put an end to hate crimes, especially those involving people of the alternative culture. And it's something I believe in very strongly, something I'm very, very passionate about. Because it's something I've had to deal with most of my life, since I was in secondary school or high school, depending what you want to call it. I've had to deal with this sort of thing for nearly 30 years. Well, yeah, for about 30 years I've had to deal with people throwing insults at me, for physically attacking me, just because of my taste in music. And, this happens all over the world to millions of people every single day, and it's something I've never seen the logic behind it. What is the point in attacking someone just because they've got a different taste in music to you? It makes no sense, And the thing is, nobody talks about this, which is why nothing's getting done about it. People are getting severely injured. People are getting hospitalized. People are getting bones broken just because they've got a different taste in music. And something needs to be done about it. It needs to stop, because the only time this ever gets spoken about is when something tragic happens, and that shouldn't be the case. All these other sort of hate crimes you see on a daily basis. You've got your transphobia, homophobia, racism. We got all of these sort of things going on every single day, and we hear about that on a daily basis, all day, every day, through every kind of social media. Even when nothing severe happens. Yesterday there was a headline about some entitled white woman calling the police because a UPS delivery guy happened to be an African American delivering parcels, and she thought he was acting suspicious purely because of the fact that he was of coloured skin, And this is getting reported all over the news. Now, yes, obviously it's a very bad thing. Racism is a terrible, terrible thing. And, we can't tolerate that sort of thing. But when a story like that gets spoken about, great, fine, bringing more attention to the fact that this is happening. But then you've got these people that are getting beaten to within an inch of their lives, getting hospitalised, and nothing's getting said. Where's the consistency here? You're talking about one hate crime, with even the... I hesitate to say this, but with a very small and minor story, because essentially no one got hurt. Yes, it's still bad that it happened, but, you've got that sort of story, and then you've got people who are getting brutally beaten and nothing's getting said, and that's wrong. That needs to change, because it's a very real problem. But the thing is, people don't see it as an important factor because, well, we're essentially a minority. But why does that make a difference? At one point, gay people were considered a minority, and transgender people were considered a minority. Immigrants were considered a minority, but anything happens against them, it still gets spoken about. Whereas we're not getting that, and that needs to change. And I just think it's important that this sort of thing needs to be brought to the forefront to stop it from happening. I mean, you look at what happened to Sophie Lancaster. That happened over 12, 13 years ago. She was brutally beaten. She had her head stamped on. She was essentially murdered. She went into a coma for 13 days before she died. She was essentially murdered just because of her taste in music. And this happened, like I said, 12, 13 years ago. And that's the last time anybody spoke about this sort of thing happening. I can guarantee you, since that happened, thousands of people all over this world have been violently attacked and possibly even hospitalised or had to have bones set just because of their taste in music. But, we've not heard a thing about it, but I guarantee it's happened. And it needs to stop. We need to stop this from happening. And this is what the Sophie Lancaster Foundation is all about. They want to bring more attention to the fact that this is happening. They want to stop this from happening. They don't want to see another family go through what they went through when they had to watch their daughter die after getting brutally beaten by a bunch of small-minded idiots. They want to bring the fact that this is happening into the conversation. They want more people to talk about it, to bring more awareness about the fact that this is happening, so we can eventually stop it from happening. This should never have happened in the first place. I mean, there is no point behind it. It doesn't accomplish anything. It's just people showing off in front of their mates, trying to look big and clever, picking on the one person that stands out. Just because we're different doesn't give you an excuse to attack us. It needs to stop. And yeah, as you can tell, it's something I feel very, very strongly about. So if you'd like to find out more about the Sophie Lancaster Foundation, there is a link to their website in the description below. You can go over there, find out what they're working on at the moment, find out what their goal is, because they can explain it a lot better than I can. And if you can help them out in any small way, obviously don't feel obliged to, but if you can help them out in any small way, like a small donation through their website, or like something like one of these Sophie wristbands, if you can help them out in any small way, it's greatly appreciated, because the smallest amount can make the biggest difference. But the sooner we bring more awareness to this, the sooner more people start talking about this, the sooner we can help to stamp out prejudice, hatred, and intolerance everywhere. But I'm going to leave that as it is for the time being. Thank you all very, very much for watching. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.